So I wasn't making any videos for MHS since last 2 weeks, and I'm here now finally for episode 5. In the last 2 episodes we got to know one of the biggest reveals for the series, that Aoyama Yuga is the traitor, the UA traitor, who was leaking out all the information to All for One all this time since this academic year started. So episode 5 is titled Let You Down, sharing the same title as chapter 343 of the manga. This episode begins with Toga walking into her old home, which has been abandoned, and there are some terrible things written over the walls. When she steps into her old room, we get a glimpse of a flashback. A young Toga is asleep in her bed, dreaming of a bird burrowing into her body, making her bleed. This scene seems to symbolize a kind of awakening, reflecting her teenage dreams. Toga herself says that the dream was incredibly pleasant and made her extremely happy, as she finds something lovable about blood. This gives the dream a unique and special significance for her. She abandoned all of this, and Dabi confronts Toga and speaks about her getting caught up in emotions. Toga tells him that she was simply curious, and Dabi asks if she was sure that she's ready for what's about to come, with Toga stating that it's too late to be asking that now. Dabi is satisfied with her answer and says that if this is the case, then let's laugh together. People live to laugh, and burns down Toga's old home. Toga here almost looks sad at the fact that her old home is burned down, and this is most likely because the house represented her old life. It is then revealed that back during the Paranormal Liberation War arc, after Twice had died, Dabi managed to get a vial of his blood, and she will be the one to keep Twice's Sad Man's Parade marching, which is gonna be a real big problem for the heroes if that happens. We move on to the villain's hideout, and we get to hear Shigaraki screaming, and we see something gross, a bunch of fingers, which shocks Spinner, and it suddenly retracts, which probably came out from Shigaraki's hands. All for One tells Spinner that Shigaraki's body is overcoming the Quark Doomsday theory. Dr. Garaki had theorized that quarks will continue to grow stronger at an accelerated rate, far outpacing the human body's ability to adapt and manage these powerful quarks. In the episode, we see that Shigaraki, thanks to his bioengineered body, is able to overcome and control the effects of the Quark Doomsday theory. Continuing on, Skeptic explains to Spinner that a high portion of criminals are heteromorphs, and that heroes targeted heteromorphs to a point where plenty of heteromorphs kept deep grudges against these so-called heroes. Spinner tells Skeptic that he isn't here to be some big messiah serving a great cause. He is then cut off and is handed a device that will rely all of the heteromorphs to the side. Spinner reluctantly agrees and takes the device, as he's really the only one here for Shigaraki, thus becoming a reluctant hero for Shigaraki and the heteromorphs. At UA, it is revealed that All for One has spies within the residential area. Their plan via All for One is to stir things up within people who are still discontented with what's been going on, so that UA will once again be an inhospitable place for Deku. After this, the anime adds in some scenes of Deku, Shoto and Bakugo taking down jailbreakers during the search effort at the Heights Alliance dorms. Now Deku attempts to talk to Ochako, but All Might walks in and informs some individuals and discusses the final plans for the all-out war. Here the anime skips over about 2 pages worth of panels showing the top 3 pros and Ragdoll discussing the plans with Endeavor, and Aizawa and Monoma are looking at Kurogiri through a window, which was meant to be a setup for what happens at the end of this episode. The next day, Nezu makes an announcement to the citizens at UA that Shigaraki will be making a big move in the next 4 days, and that all of UA will be under martial law. The anime here changes things quite a bit, as not only do we get added shots of civilians and the reactions during the whole announcement, but in the manga we never actually get to see the announcement made by Nezu. It actually just starts off with the civilians talking about the announcement made by Nezu earlier on. The villain spy here says that because the heroes made this announcement that resulted in Deku leaving UA, anyways, it has made their plan so much easier now, guaranteeing All for One success. After this, everyone from 1A says goodbye to the loved ones and the civilians. I really like this sequence. We even get an added shot of Deku waving goodbye as they all leave to the makeshift fortress called Troy. Before entering into Troy, we get an added scene of Shoto as Kirishima, Bakugo and Ida all worry about him replacing the panel of the hallway inside of Troy. Deku and Ochako finally have a chance to talk as they both talk about their respective villains to each other. Ochako says that she can't forgive them for what they have done, but Toga is a person too, and doesn't know the first thing about her, as she wants to understand her villain side, and Deku agrees that he can't ignore the crying child he saw within Shigaraki. Switching over to Shoto, we see Kirishima, Bakugo and Ida, all of them comforting Shoto, being there for him as he deals with going against his brother Toya in this war. We then get an added shot of Deku and Ochako looking at the city as they both state that they'll put an end to this league. 3 days later, All For One's plans begin here, and the anime doesn't adapt the panels of All For One saying, "Shall we?" Though he does say it later in the episode in the cave. All For One states that during the advent of the extraordinary, he stole a quirk and combined it with others to boost his efficiency, where he is able to tell when a person has the slightest bit of ill will towards him, so lies do not work against him. The original owner of the quirk was a disappointment of a man, but his descendants did much better for themselves, and by some twist of fate, one of the man's descendants wound up working with All Might to threaten him, who was none other than Detective Tsukauchi, as his family lineage have quirks that gives them the ability to tell when people are lying, as his sister Makoto had a similar quirk. All For One makes contact with Aoyama's parents, talking in code to have Aoyama take Deku somewhere isolated from the heroes the next day. Once the call is over, he did not detect any ill will from Aoyama's mother, meaning that she is telling him the truth. The next day, Aoyama takes Deku to an isolated area and he tells Deku All For One's plan and what's happening to the rest of the world right now in a villainous tone. Aoyama tells Deku that the sudden crash in value of yen forced Japanese corporations into bankruptcy. The coordinated uprisings of villains caused the damage to spread worldwide. And now the world faces a crisis much like the Great Depression of the period around the advent of quirks, causing a record-breaking amount of unemployment, loss of faith in currencies, bringing an era of total chaos. While nations who have abandoned Japan prioritize themselves, lacking the strength to implement long-term policies. Japan's society devolves into one scrambling for short-term safety in a world like that. If someone appears in a country impacted by the lack of water with a quirk that can produce water needed, or be it electricity or gas or just strength, the world will move into a state of decline and chaos, forming the foundation for a single remarkable individual to take the initiative to become the world's demon lord, being All For One. Now, all For One needs to do now is upset the balance somewhere, and his plan will come to fruition. As Aoyama explains this to Deku, we get a 10 of added shots showing yen crashing, Japan being abandoned when All For One is shown to have the world in the palm of his hands. Deku of course disagrees with this, as the world still has heroes to stop this plan from happening, and All For One then comes down from the sky just right behind Aoyama. He congratulates Aoyama for bringing Deku to him. As Deku gears up to fight, All For One tells Aoyama that he wasn't accurate describing his plans, but he did a good job. Deku gets upset at Aoyama, and that's when Aoyama turns around and hits All For One with his naval laser, betraying him. The whole time Aoyama and Deku had been acting as if Deku was being sad about Aoyama, but he exclaims that he will fight All For One for everyone's sake. Disappointed, All For One wonders how they were able to get past lying to him. Not stressing too much about it, One For All is right in front of him right now, and he knows the heroes are dispersed across the country and won't be able to help Deku. That's when All For One activates his Goo Warp, warping in Shiraki and the entire league of villains with some Nomus and other villains. Kurogiri's portal begins to open right behind Aoyama, believing that Kurogiri came to help, further putting Deku into a corner, making it easier for him to take One For All. That is when multiple portals begin to open and heroes come out from them, as Aoyama tells All For One that his parents also told him that All For One's biggest fear is the world learning that Japan isn't finished, fearing the light and hope that will come with recovery, and Japan inspiring the world to unite once more, and that today is the day where he falls. We get an added shot of Deku with the episode ending with the all-out war beginning, as all of our heroes come out of the portals to stand with Deku and Aoyama against All For One and the League. I would say the portal scene in the manga definitely looked better, but I'm still very pleased with the anime. I was really hyped to see this. And the entire portal scene in itself is of course a massive reference to the Avengers Endgame, where all of the Avengers come in to fight Thanos and his army in the final battle. This episode adapted a total of 3 chapters, which were chapters 341, 342 and 343. This episode was amazing from beginning to the end. That finally brings us to the beginning of the second all-out war, and sadly getting us closer to the end of My Hero Academia. I enjoyed this episode very much, and I will give this an 8.5 out of 10. So what do you guys think? Did you enjoy it or dislike it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and stay tuned for more My Hero Academia videos by subscribing to my channel. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking till the end, and I'll see you guys next week.